This involuntary tremor is a sacred language you were trained to ignore, a whispering script your nerves still remember even if your mind does not. In the next few minutes, you will recognize the exact signs that your body is ready to release imprisoned traumas, and you will learn to allow this movement without fear, without control, with nothing but presence and breath. There is a living geometry pulsing within you, a spiral that reorganizes what has been frozen into silence, thawing what once hid in the marrow of stillness. When you give the body back its right to vibrate, something shifts. Chronic tension softens. The breath drops into the belly. The sense of presence returns like a steady tide. This knowing reconnects you to the somatic intelligence that was always there, yet culturally suppressed and faithfully waiting. The tremor you feel and try to contain carries a reorganization code that could have healed you years ago, a script your bones remember. To give up is to choose to remain stuck, letting the freeze decide for you. Closing this video means relinquishing an ancestral key that restores sovereignty to your body and to your path. What is about to be revealed exists nowhere else in this form. You are seconds away from understanding why this movement was concealed from you, and how to greet it without bracing. When a traumatic event surpasses your nervous system's capacity to respond, the excess charge mobilized to fight or flee becomes trapped in living tissue, coiled in muscle, fascia, breath. Tremor is not a failure. It is the organism's natural attempt to complete an interrupted cycle, the loop seeking closure. By the end of this video, you will know how to recognize the precise signs of somatic activation: heat, tingling, pulsing, spontaneous micro-movements, and you will learn to create the conditions for this motion to surface with safety and reverence. Like giving a shy animal space, they taught you that trembling is weakness, but the body knows that trembling is release, the gate unlatched, the current finding its riverbed. You were not meant to know this, because a body that recognizes itself is a body that does not submit. It stands and refuses to kneel to borrowed authority. Keeping you disconnected from your own somatic intelligence keeps you dependent on external systems of healing, on authorities who prescribe what to do with your pain, an economy of experts, protocols, and pills that mute sensation while the root remains. When you reclaim bodily sovereignty, when you realize the organism carries ancestral codes of reorganization, a remembered technology, you stop being a patient and become an initiate. Tremor happens in a spiral. It pulses, undulates, turns, widening and narrowing like breath. This geometry reorganizes muscle fibers, fascia, and also the emotional and ancestral layers that unlock in succession, door by door, through the lineage. In the Egyptian mystery schools, in rites of bodily initiation, tremor was recognized as vibrational purification, the body expelling what no longer belongs to it, like incense smoke, lifting what has clung to bone. It was not a pathological symptom, but embodied wisdom ready to emerge, a priesthood moving under the skin. To repress it is to interrupt healing. To allow it is to return to the body the right to speak its own tongue, a language older than words, older than reason, yet absolutely precise in its cadence. What sustains this view is not only ancient tradition, it is also modern neuroscience, which maps discharge, vagal release, and rhythmic oscillations that restore regulation. Polyvagal theory shows that tremor emerges when the nervous system attempts to leave dorsal immobilization, that collapse without fight, flight, or presence, and return to ventrality, the state of responsive connection. Tremor is the physiological bridge between freezing and living presence, a shaking that ferries attention into breath and orientation. Epigenetics reveals that the body's vibrational states influence gene expression. activating or silencing genes tied to inflammation and repair. Repeated frequency patterns reorganize structures that seem fixed, from fascia to cytoskeleton. This scientific knowledge validates what bodily alchemy and hermeticism recognized for millennia. The spiraled tremor as reactivation of the inner serpent, that primordial force asleep at the base of the spine that upon waking rises and reorganizes all centers of bodily consciousness, beating them on a single current. The principle of solve et coagula applies here, dissolving what is fixed, coagulating what is scattered into form. Tremor dissolves emotional and fascial rigidity. Conscious presence coagulates integration, knitting sensation back into meaning. The ancestral code meets somatic validation, and now you will learn how to activate it with the steadiness of breath and the precision of ritual attention. The body signals before it releases. There are subtle signs, often ignored or misread, indicating the nervous system is approaching a point of reorganization, a threshold where the locked door loosens. Deep, repeated yawns, chills without a thermal cause, tiny involuntary movements in legs or arms, spontaneous tears that come without story, a tingling at the base of the spine or in the lower abdomen, like carbonated light rising, a soft warmth in the chest, a sudden swallow, eyes wanting to blink and widen. All of these are indications that something is emerging from freeze into the surface of bodily awareness. They are not random. They are portals, opening hinges, oiled signals, braiding sensation back into presence. Deep somatic practice does not force this movement. It creates the conditions for it to happen, an invitation rather than a command. The recommended position is simple, yet heavy with meaning. Lie down with knees slightly bent, feet flat on the ground, hands resting over the lower abdomen, precisely where the second energy center lives, the ancestral and emotional reservoir, warmed by your palms. Let gravity hold you like an altar. This posture naturally activates neurogenic tremor because it releases accumulated tension in the psoas muscles, tender ropes that connect the spine to the pelvis, carrying memory of survival, archaic fear, and vital impulse, which begin to loosen as breath widens. Breath should be free, without command. You do not control, you observe. Place your attention along the axis of the spine. Feel the body's weight surrendered to the ground. Notice the air's temperature entering your nostrils and the subtle swell of ribs as it leaves. Let the eyes soften, jaw unhook, tongue rest heavy. Your only task is to be present, without expectation of an outcome, like keeping vigil by a quiet doorway. Tremor is not something you make happen. It is something you allow to emerge when the body senses there is safe space for it. The perimeter held, nothing to defend. Presence is the first access code, the key turned in silence that signals the organism it may begin. As you breathe and observe, the nervous system begins to scan the internal environment, listening like a sentinel at dusk. It seeks signs of safety, absence of threat, inner permission, and physical or symbolic containment, a room that holds a boundary felt from within. If these three elements are present, the body understands it can lower its guard, exhale its watchfulness. That is when the first activation signals begin to pulse. You may feel heat rising through your legs, a slight tremor in your hands, a subtle wave moving along your spine, a swallow that comes unbidden. Do not interrupt. Simply witness, stay with the breath, let the current organize itself. When the first activation signs arise, create an anchor in a safe point, a simple reference that steadies you. It can be a sound, the rhythm of your own breath, the faint hum of a fan, gentle music in the background. It can be an image, a place where you felt peace, a memory of safety, a horizon you know by heart. It can be a concrete sensation, the pressure of your hands over your abdomen, the weight of the body supported by the ground, the outline of your spine meeting the floor. This anchor works as a point of return. Whenever the intensity of release grows too strong, you bring your attention back to it as often as needed. This is natural pendulation, moving toward sensation, then back to steadiness, like a tide. To pendulate means to consciously alternate between the sensation of activation and the sensation of safety, like stepping from sun to shade and back again. You neither remain fixed in the intensity of the tremor, nor try to avoid it entirely. You oscillate, feel the wave rise, accompany it for a few seconds, then return to the safe point, as if touching a shoreline before wading out again. Breathe, feel again, return, let the rhythm find you. This back and forth allows the nervous system to release traumatic charge without tipping into collapse or overload, keeping you within a humane window of presence. This is how healing happens. Gradually, in layers. Honoring the body essential tempo, a patient metronome of renewal. When the tremor comes, and it will, if you allow it, receive it with reverence, as you would a long-awaited guest. Do not try to control the way it manifests. It may start in the legs, travel up the spine, move the arms, shake the whole torso. It may be subtle or intense, fast or slow, silent or accompanied by involuntary sounds and sighs. None of that matters. What matters is that you do not interfere, do not suppress, do not judge, only soften around it. The tremor knows what it's doing. It is completing a cycle that was interrupted long ago, stitching time back together, returning charge to flow. The movement happens in a spiral. It pulses, undulates, turns. It is not linear. One contraction frees another, one emotion reveals the next. A fascial knot loosens and activates a deeper one, like beads sliding along a hidden thread. You may feel heat, cold, rising emotions, anger, sadness, fear, relief, cresting and ebbing. Fragmented memories may surface, images with no clear context, sensations that look like weather moving through. All of this is a natural reorganization. The body is expelling what no longer belongs to it, dissolving layers of tension that were frozen in living tissue, returning charge to motion. If needed, touch your anchor and breathe. There is no need to name, understand, or explain. Just let it happen, attend, allow, and let the wave complete its circle. Begin with short sessions. 5 to 10 minutes are enough at first. Tremor need not be long to be effective. It needs to be allowed, given room and breath. Over time, as the body grows familiar with the practice and trust gathers, you may extend to 15-20 minutes without strain. The recommended frequency is 2 to 3 times a week, always respecting the internal rhythm as you would the phases of tide or moon. If on a particular day the tremor does not come, do not force it. Rest in the posture, breathe, and let the silence do its work. The body has its own cycles of release. It knows when it is ready, and when the pause is part of the medicine. During practice, you may experience intense sensations, waves of heat moving through the body, sudden cold, goosebumps, tingling, involuntary muscle contractions that ripple or twitch. Emotions may arise without apparent cause, deep crying, unexpected laughter, long sighs that empty the chest, a trembling in the jaw or lips. Old memories may surface as visual flashes or bodily sensations without a clear narrative, fragments like scent or color returning without story. All of this is normal. All of this is healing. The body is releasing successive layers of accumulated tension, reorganizing neurophysiological structure, re-establishing the vital flow that was blocked, pathways reopening, current finding its course. When you sense the session has reached its end and you will return gradually, let the wave settle, trusting the quiet that follows movement. Slowly move your fingers and toes, curl and uncurl them, rotate your wrists, soften your jaw, trace small arcs with the neck, open and close your eyes softly. Breathe consciously, feeling the air come and go, the cool of the inhale, the weight of the exhale. Place one hand over your heart and the other over your abdomen, feeling pulse and warmth. Remain there for a few moments, acknowledging the body that has just crossed a portal of reorganization. Offer silent thanks. This gesture of gratitude seals the practice, closes the circle, and signals to the nervous system that the release has been received with respect. Tremor is not a technique. It is ritual, not a method. It is reconnection, a rite of remembrance where breath and earth meet. In practicing this, you are giving your body back the right to be its own oracle, to speak the language that existed before words, to release what was imprisoned when action was impossible and the body chose to live by freezing. This is a practice of embodied rebellion. You are telling cultural conditioning that your body knows, and that you trust it enough to lay down the script. In that trust, something greater reveals itself, not as concept, but as felt truth. Not as a distant promise, but as living presence pulsing right now at the center of your chest, widening the breath, clarifying the field, turning you toward your original rhythm. Victoria was 58 when she realized she no longer felt her own legs while walking. It wasn't paralysis, it was absence, as if her steps belonged to a stranger. Her body functioned, but she did not inhabit it. She spent entire days with shoulders raised to her ears, jaw clenched, stomach contracted as if bracing for an impact that never arrived, moving like a house under constant wind. She breathed only into the upper chest, thin and shallow. She lived in a state of continuous preparation for something she could not name, eyes scanning, muscles braced, sleep skimming the surface. The tension was so old, she no longer perceived it, like wallpaper that disappears into the wall, until the day the body began to scream through pains no test could explain. A chorus of aches and chills and stabbing pulses that announced themselves where language failed. One ordinary afternoon, lying on the living room floor with her knees bent, something changed. She wasn't trying to force anything, nor chasing an outcome. She simply observed the room's hush and the weight of her own bones. Suddenly, she felt a subtle tremor in her right thigh, like a moth beating against glass. Instinctively, she wanted to control it, stop it, get up, make it behave. But this time she didn't. She took a deep breath and allowed it, hands warm over her belly. The tremor spread through her legs, rose up her spine, shook her whole torso in widening arcs. Waves of heat coursed through her body, then chills, then heat again. She cried without knowing why, tears arriving like rain on dry earth. Then silence, a bright quiet settling in the ribs as if the house had exhaled. When she stood, something had shifted. It wasn't a thought, it was sensation. Her legs were there, vivid as if lit from within. Her feet met the ground differently, as if they had real weight and the floor answered back. Her breath dropped into her abdomen without effort, the belly receiving it like a bowl. For the first time in decades, Victoria felt she inhabited her body, not as an idea, but as living presence, a steady hum beneath the skin. Colors seemed clearer, the room wider. The freeze she had carried for so long began to melt in that instant, and kept melting each time she allowed the tremor to return. A river carving through old ice. What happened to Victoria was not a miracle. It was a returning. It was reconnection, the current finding its riverbed. Her body knew what to do. It only needed permission and a field of safety. And now you can seal this same reconnection in your own body, not as a distant story, but as immediate experience felt in breath, weight, pulse. Place the key where the door waits and turn. What changed in her can change in you. If you allow the spiral to complete itself, if you let the movement finish speaking and you listen, this reconnection that happened with Victoria can be sealed in your body right now through 3 physical markers. Breath that drops into the abdomen without effort, a jaw that softens when you aren't watching it, and a sense of warmth or expansion at the center of the chest that feels like light widening. These are trackable signs that the nervous system has moved from freeze into living presence, the guard standing down. You don't need to force them, simply notice if they are happening, like catching a tide already turning. If they are, the portal has been crossed, the threshold stepped, and the body knows the way forward. To anchor this new state, create a minimal signal gesture, a micro-ritual that the body can recognize instantly. Place your right hand over the lower abdomen and your left hand at the center of the chest. Breathe 3 times, slowly, feeling the movement beneath your palms like a quiet call and response. Do this for 30 to 60 seconds whenever you notice your body slipping back into the old pattern of tension, like placing a bookmark where presence was found. This touch crystallizes the change, sets the keel. It tells the body, I recognize you, I allow you, I trust you. When deviation appears, and it will return to this point, hands on the body, conscious breath, inner permission, the simple triangle of hand, breath, attention. This is not pushing through, it is sealing, letting the nervous system reprint the new map. And now that tremor has been allowed, something greater can be understood, not as theory but as felt orientation. Tremor was never about correcting the body. It has always been about recognizing that the body already knows, a knowing stored in breath, bone, and pulse. It carries release codes, older than culture, older than repression, older than the fear of feeling, etched like rings in a tree you didn't plant. When you allow the spiral to complete, you are not learning a new technique. You are crossing a portal, stepping through a doorway your cells have kept ajar. A portal that was always there, only hidden behind habit and hurry. The sacred portal of healing opens when you stop suppressing and begin trusting the somatic intelligence that pulses at the core of your own body. The oldest compass, turning you back to what is alive, precise, and already prepared to guide you. Meister Eckhart wrote, God is in all things, but only where you bow does he rise. Tremor is this bow, not in submission, but in vibrational surrender, a kneeling of the nervous system to what is already moving. It is the moment you stop trying to control healing and allow it to happen through you, like a river resuming its bed after the dam is lifted. God is not a distant force waiting for you to deserve it. It is living intelligence pulsing in the tremor of your spine, in the breath that finally drops, in the portal that opens when the body is allowed to speak. When the body vibrates in coherence, something greater manifests, not as a future promise, but as immediate presence, lucid and near. Victoria was not healed by a technique. She was healed because she trusted the portal her body opened, a door that appeared the moment she stopped bracing. She trusted that the tremor had the right to speak, to move, to complete what had been interrupted, that the small shaking knew more than the old story. This trust is what turns involuntary movement into sacred right, a ceremony conducted by breath and bone. And you have just crossed it, not as an idea, but as felt permission. The freeze that kept you trapped for years is not destiny. It is a pattern, a practiced pathway. And patterns can be dissolved when you return to the body its right to vibrate without censure, without shame, without control. When you choose presence over management and let the current finish its sentence. Tremor is not a self-help method. It is a portal of reconnection with the source. It is the body saying, I am temple, not symptom. I am oracle, not problem. I am passage, not prison, a threshold that opens when you stop bracing. And when you finally listen, something changes. Not at the surface, but at the axis, where posture and breath begin to agree. Chronic tension begins to dissolve, breath deepens, presence returns and settles like a steady flame. You come back to inhabit your own flesh, and in doing so, you reconnect with the sacred that was never outside, only forgotten, humming in the marrow, waiting for your yes. If this video came to remind you of anything, it is this. Healing is not outside of you. It spirals within your own body, waiting only for you to stop repressing and step through the sacred. Portal Tremor offers a door that appears when you stop bracing. The tremor you were trained to ignore is the language that reconnects you to what you have always been, a mother tongue returning to the mouth. When the body trembles, the portal opens. When the portal opens, God speaks, not in thunder, but in pulse and breath. And now you know how to listen, how to bow and let the current finish its sentence. If this content resonated with you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. This expands the field of knowledge we are building together and helps others find their way back to the body. I want to know how you are feeling this reconnection, how the breath and tremor are moving through you. Write in the comments, I cross the sacred portal of tremor. The healing vibrates in a spiral. Let the words land in your chest as you type them. This affirmation seals your presence on the path of embodied consciousness and activates the somatic intelligence that has always been waiting for. Permission, a simple yes, spoken through your own pulse. Share this video with someone who needs to remember the power dwelling in their own body. Someone trained to repress what could have healed them. Someone taught to silence the very language that would set them free. And don't stop here. Click on the screen and dive into another transformative video on the channel. Each portal you cross brings you nearer to the reality you were born to manifest, step by step, breath by breath. Remember, when you give the body back its right to vibrate, tremor ceases to be a symptom and reveals itself as passage. Healing is not outside, it spirals within you, waiting only for your permission, waiting for your simple yes.